Okay, so most people would cry at this very next point. However, right now I'm actually going yes, only because I want to showcase it to you guys. Now, usually on a car, you've got the rear arches traditionally, which are carpeted, and the fronts are kind of plastic or some kind of textured material. Now, on this car, probably because of the sound deadening, because it's big wheels, loud engines, probably a little bit of road noise, they've actually got all four corners in carpets. Now, you could take a 40 and blast it off, and you'll be there probably, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I've got a solution for you. So rather than doing the 15-minute hack, you can do the 30-second hack. This is our Swiss piece of goodness. The turbo nozzle. Now, I know a lot of you guys have got this, and again, let me know in the comments exactly what you feel of its true power. It's absolutely beautiful, right? What we're going to do now, basically, we're going to do one swipe of this, and I can guarantee you that every single thing, as you've seen on the B-roll on the previous episode, of how much gunk there is within the arch wells, it's just gone in one single pass. Unbelievable. Now, unfortunately, no single pressurized nozzle in the world, so something like this, it can't do what this has just done. Now, I'm hoping I'm overexposed, and it's like, honestly, probably a videographer's every worst nightmare. Bright sun directly into your face, so everything's kind of like blooming out, but hopefully it's picked up. Not only that have I just literally have I just rinsed very tight short pile carpet in the arch wells, which is notorious for being an absolute pain in the ass, within 15 seconds. But also, you could see the silver wheel. Look, it's just brown dirt and mud just encased all up in here. It's just ran through all the cracks, obviously ran down the wheel. And now you don't need to use no chemical, you don't need to use any of your limited lifetime to be using it with a pressurized nozzle, and you can just crack on. So basically now I'm just going to rinse. I'm going to rinse the wheel off. Fair play, Michael. I'm looking, it's got some, again, this is a dirty wheel, but it's still got hydrophobics on there, so he has protected with something. Now again, these are carbon ceramics, and what we're going to be using, we're not going to be using wheels because we're wasting 50% of that formulation. So instead, we'll still pre-treat with undress. Let that do its business. Let's see how good you scrub your tires, Michael. And then while that's doing its thing, we're going to cover the whole thing in our wheel foam, 200ml to 800ml. That was the initial dilution. This is 2 weeks worth of usage, so you could just see how little I've used. Now, I had actually quite a few people recently, we've actually been talking about wheel foam specifically, and like, why does it exist, and where did you kind of come thinking about that? Now, the thing with undress is where it's such an amazing product on both sets of braking systems, which one of you is going to have, is in this case, the very rare case, so I will speak on this because it's faster. Carbon ceramics are quite rare brakes, very, very expensive brakes. So of course not everybody has a set of this braking system. Now, carbon ceramics don't produce your traditional style brake dust from steel brakes, but they still do produce kind of like carbon dust. So and they do can kind of build up in the holes in the rotors and behind the calipers and all that type of stuff. Now, the pressure washer if you've got the right one, it will actually do the blowing out of the pads fairly well. I'd say about a good 90%. But what carbon ceramics also like is a nice high pH, almost like a purge, because there is still a film that will eventually coat them. Depends how long you drive in between, obviously, your washers and stuff like that. So yes, they don't get as traditionally dirty as your standard car. They still kind of get lightly dirty in their own way. So obviously wheel foam gets a really good purge happening on the wheels. Also, it gives you a lot of slickness. Now, if you've ever done this, again, even though it's a pH 13, not all pHs are built the same. So one day, just try that and you will actually see it's a very slick product, and that's due to its, not only due to its alkalinity, but also of the raw materials that it has inside it. Now, slickness on carbon ceramics, you're going to say, Nick, I've got no kind of traditional dirt as my, for example, Ford Focus or Golf GTI may have. Yes, correct. However, you will still have, we live on planet Earth, and there's all sorts of things, rocks, soot, pollen, bits of concrete flying up in the wheels. Now, whatever's left on the wheel as you're agitating, you don't want to be taking, literal sandpaper and just scrubbing it into the wheel. So instead, you want to layer it with something that's got a high pH, an amazing degrease. I've got like brown stuff just dripping everywhere. So obviously he's driven through puddles or horse manure or something like that. So you want it to start breaking it down in that kind of respect, but you also want it to give it some serious slickness. Now that's for carbon ceramics. Now if you've got traditional steel brakes, which is probably, hazard a guess, 99.3% of the world population, you've got normal brakes. Now you're going to pre-lay undress, which you've seen me do. You're going to pre-lay wheels, and that's going to start the reaction. Now wheels on its own is a fantastic formulation. It's a 2-in-1 formula. It's got degreasers and it's got a fallout agent based in there, and that's basically going to start going towards, let's say, like your ferrous things, which are either loose or embedded into the clear coat. And because you've used that product, you know exactly how amazing it is. Now the slickness element, we'll go back to that first. Slickness wise, you're laying it over wheels, so you want to give it so it's now dissolving this fallout and brake dust all over the place. So first of all, slickness, you do not want to be rubbing it into a nice beautiful wheel like this, for example, if it was normal brakes. But also, because wheels is a pH neutral formulation and wheel foam is not, it's a pH 13, what you want to do is then, the wheel foam adds that extra little bit of alkaline bite. There's one. But also two, it actually, because it's a thicker product, a thin, non-viscous product has a higher durability in weather like this, perfect example, of drying out quicker. So wheel foam lays on top of it like this, and it actually keeps the wheels wetter for longer and keeping it reacting, okay? So if you've got really bad wheels like silver, but you've done like 3,000 miles without washing them, you're going to see just this horrible black and orange from the brake dust, and you want the wheel foam to actually keep it on top like this, whilst underneath it, which is my tire brush right now, you've got the wheels just constantly reacting and dissolving everything. So that was my science behind it. And once again, you are, I'm going to copyright this term, you are still you are your own barman in your own cocktail bar, making your own cocktail. Sometimes you need wheel foam on top of wheels. Sometimes you do not. Sometimes you do not wheels, but you can use wheel foam. Like literally, it's a case-by-case basis every time. Right, look at that. Fair play. So I've pulled a little bit of browning from the tire, just a little bit. Now, for pure argument's sake, if you want to see if the wheel is good, watch this. There we are, white foam. Can you see that? So we know that on this car, undress, once again, in fact, I haven't yet seen a car where it's not a one-hit wonder, but white foam, that's your check scrub, and you know that you've pulled everything from the wheel. You know what I'm like, guys. I never sell anything to you. I just showcase it to you. I tell you how it's done, tell you the story. Of how it should be done kind of properly, etc, etc. But if you haven't got your hands on this turbo nozzle, please just try it. It's a lifetime investment, and I know sometimes cameras aren't the best to pick up like darker areas of the car, like in the kind of wheel wells, but the way it just destroys everything in seconds is just amazing. I'm going to risk the medium wheel woolly actually, because the small one last time, oh yeah. See, this is where Audi are a bit sometimes more practical. On my 911, in the front, there's no chance you're getting the medium one in. But here, apart from behind the caliper, of course, the small one is beautiful, but the bigger you go in brush size, the faster you can work the surface area, obviously. I mean, even behind, can you see that there? That fits completely perfectly. It's just the smaller bits that ain't gonna fit. While we're on the subject of wheel woolies, the number one question we get, especially when people speak to you face to face, they'll be like, come have a look at my wheel. I want to buy one brush, like one wheel woolly brush. What's the jack of all trades? Well, obviously the smallest one, the toothpick as I call it, is the jack of all trades, quite easily. However, it's like trying to clean sometimes, you know, with a lot of brake clearance, like a big barrel, like a 300-litre barrel with a toothpick. Yes, they'll clean it. However, you'll be there all day. So if you want to hear my recommendation for something that realistically is a lifetime purchase, but even if it lasts you, I don't know, 6 years for normal, non-professional use, just get the 3 set, because as you've seen there, I can do a medium one, I can do a small one behind the calipers here. If you really wish, you can then get the large one in the arches, if it's plastic or whatever. Then, because a lot of people say, oh, I'll just buy the small one or I'll buy the medium one. And then they'll be literally back next week, online or in store, going, actually, oh yeah, I'm going to buy the other one that I should have bought. And obviously as a bundle, the 3 set works out a lot cheaper. So as I said at the start of this video, this is not really a dedicated video or video series on how to do things. It's probably 25% how to do things. So if you're like a new subscriber to the channel and you just stumble across this video, then it could be kind of in that way. If you're an existing kind of person, which most of you are, you might pick up a few tips and tricks in every video, and of course that is what it's designed for. But it's also is to try like a little bit of different content, because what I've learned in life, so it's basically like a wash and chat, a how-to, and probably more than a wash and chat will ever be. So it's like 3 videos in one this. But what I have learned in life is a lot of people, and by the way, I was probably the biggest #1 fan of this next thing I was going to say, is people are scared to try new stuff, because they'll be like, oh, well, what happens if Paul over there or Michael, whatever, what happens if he laughs at what I do, or because it's the first time I've done something. Now, of course, not the first time I've cleaned a car, but you know, this video series of, obviously I take 0 money for this. This is completely free, so I've got no financial benefit. I've got, obviously, I lose on a lot of time. This video series, probably I'm going to lose 3 days, you know, 1 day for this, 1 day for the editing and putting it all together, day on uploads, and you know, all that type of stuff. So it's 3 days out of my very expensive, well, not expensive, busy work-life schedule. So it's not that I'm gaining anything monetarily out of this. I'll probably get £1.20 from YouTube for the ad revenue for this video, but it's literally to trial whether I put a dedicated page on the website where I open up application, I don't know what it's called, Ride and Chat, or A Day in the Bay or something, you know, like, I don't know the names yet, but I'd love to hear your feedback on this. Like, would you want me to open up where, as I said, we choose special cars, and people say, well, what cars are you going to choose? Is it just going to be high-end? Well, not necessarily, because like, high-end is not the end-all and be-all. You know, disaster details are not the end-all and be-all. My answer is what we're going to choose is what I'm interested in. Now, obviously, as you know, I've got like a really special connection to this car. Now, if there's a car that, I don't know, for example, a certain Mercedes S-Class that I once looked at a picture of, or maybe ridden in one or something, if there's a car that comes along like that, that rejogs my past life memories, or I don't know, I'm just giving stupid examples here. If there's a car that I'm thinking, you know what, I'd be quite cool for that, whether it has a bit of value of a disaster kind of detail in it, or if it's like a super high-end hypercar, or just a run-of-the-mill S5, for example, that has an obnoxious exhaust, I'll take the car that interests me the most. So that'll be interesting. Please let me know in the comments if you think this is a good idea, if you're enjoying this kind of content. Again, new car, I'm talking new points. So everything that you say, even the negatives, believe it or not, I read it and I take it on board. Some of it I don't listen to, because I know some people just say a bad thing for the sake of it. But if, say, one of our existing customers and a long-time viewer says, you know what, I think, you know, you've done it once, you ran the course, kind of leave it be. It's a positive and a negative, but I'll take that negative and be like, right, so I'm off-putting certain people that support us every single day. I won't do it again, or I will, you know, whichever one it goes to. Okay, and the last part of the wheel cleaning step, of course, is the exhaust. Now, I love a good kind of bit of exhaust cleaning. However, obviously, different exhausts have different shapes, all that type of stuff. Now, this, if you were to ever say it, is probably the dream exhaust. Look at this. In fact, it's probably 2.5 times bigger than my hand. So it'll be an absolute dream to clean. It's got a lot of clearance. And again, you take the same precautions and the same steps as you would with the wheel. So the first thing is obviously try and rinse it. Make sure there's like no loose rock or anything like that. Still use the same products you use for the wheels. Super simple. And then same brushes. Now, for the first time on this car, we've got the big boy out. The big wheel woolly will fit absolutely perfectly in this. In fact, almost too perfectly. So you clean everything that the wheel woolly is designed to clean. And then just knock out the final bits with the Detail Factory. So that's in there done. And that, guys, is not only how you clean an exhaust, but this is how you clean all 4 corners, or if you want to be really cool, clean all 5 corners, because this is classed as the 5th. I'll see you all on the next episode. If you don't clean your exhausts, this is a bit of behind the scenes extra special encore. You don't deserve to be a car guy. It's the same thing with the barrels of your wheels. Everyone likes to do the faces and think they're cool. But when it comes to the nitty-gritties, especially an exhaust of this size and of this kind of feature on the car, get it cleaned. It takes 30 seconds. And on that note, I will see you on the next episode.